welcome back, AfterBuzzers. We have such a special show in store for you today. We have the Goya Robles in studio as we discuss Banana Split, Episode 7. Stay with us.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Robles, yeah.
Robles, I said it.
It's okay.
I need. Oh my! I said Goya Robles like I'm just like a Yankee. I'm sorry, Robles. Yes, the Robles. We're so blessed and happy to have you here. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good right now. We'll see how the rest of the night goes. So.
The rest of the night is gonna go well. It's gonna go well.
Okay, cool.
So this episode, we have a lot for you today. You know, at the after show, we're gonna talk about mobs and movies, our special segment. We'll definitely have an interview segment with Mr. Robles here, and of course, get into some predictions for next season. Of course, the next episode. But you know, there were a few themes that we saw go on this episode, and the very first one I would say is, you know, so much is going on, and people have to pick their sides, right? And it's like a pick a side. We see Miles starting off and he's having this reoccurring daydream. But what strikes me about that is that he actually shared that with Genie, which is nice because she ignited it all. But I'm so iffy about this relationship because, again, I feel like this might be something that she needs. But it's more common to her. Whereas with him, Miles, in my opinion, kind of falls hard. You know, he fell for Katie, and that's been it for this entire time. So now Genie has come along, and I really hope she doesn't break his heart. I know you can't give us too much. But is this something that outside of being a member of the cast, are you a fan of this relationship?
I mean, I understand it. You know, like Miles, he really did try to make things work with his separated wife, you know?
Yeah.
And even though you understand why she does what she does, she's trying to protect her kids, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I think Miles, when he got to experience something, real. The dude has been lonely as hell.
More than lonely. And she came at such a time that it was euphoric. And, you know, if you're somebody who's kind of going through life, it's really important to pay attention because you ask all these questions. And he got into this car crash and he has all these things going on with him. And she stepped out sort of like an omen, you know, and she was able to not only help him into the motel when he needed help and couldn't get in, but then showed up the next day and they bonded with a buffet, you know, I'm fatty, and other things along those lines. But there was this constant battle. And I feel like just when he was ready to give up, she was the one who was like, listen, your future is right in front of you. Grab it if you want it. So I think that is the authenticity that he's feeling and is trying to attach himself to.
Right. It's one thing to learn something from someone. It's another thing to like use it as a way to like, okay, well, you know, now I want you in my life and try to make something out of it. So, you know, I think she, you know, she's human.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, she has her own stuff going on. She's married. Right, just like he is. He's married too, you know. True.
And it's definitely the humanity that Davey Holmes does a great job of bringing in. You know, such a serious show. We inject pockets of humor a lot into it, but we also have this humanizing factor with each character. Right, no one is so black and white. Because I wasn't too fond of it, just because I'm just like, Miles, like, can we do one thing at a time? I thought we were focusing on Shorty, and then Genie comes out of nowhere. But I definitely understand it, and I think that, like you said, a lot of times when you have that kind of experience with somebody, it's important. You kind of want to be close to the source, right? So if you are if you do start slipping, it's like, can we do another chakra bath? Like, what did we do last time?
Right,
you know?
And his life was a mess before. You know, before Genie came into his life. I mean, it was falling apart. And so to have a real experience with someone where he got to open his mind and his heart, you know, he's going to keep going after. But you see a change. You see a change in his character just overall after his experience with her. It's like he just opens up and he stops apologizing. Yeah. Which is a huge part of, is a pivotal point in his character. So.
Absolutely, because, you know, he's definitely seen that he is, you know, guilt tripped himself into believing a lot of the lies people tell him about himself. Because one thing that I will stand by is that he is a good father. You know, he is a good person. He tries to be. So everybody has the cards that they're dealt, but you know, his intentions are always pure, which is why I was really like, Katie, you want full custody? Like, that's not even fair. It's not like he's a
well, let's be real too. Katie was messing around with this other dude in first season.
the golfer.
I'm just saying. So if we're gonna hate on Miles, we gotta hate on her
We
too.
are not hating on Miles, but let's just go ahead and transition to the real person we should be hating on right now.
Why y'all
Okay?
hating on Yago?
We are hating on Yago because, you know, listen, the thing about Yago is he's such a volatile character, but I feel like he's vulnerable in a lot of ways, which tries to hide that with bravado. And I think that there's a lot of true relationship between him and his Tia, even down to the way he dresses. You know, they're very much family, very much can. And side note, when Ross was like, "Oh, this is my shirt," I was like, "Ross, please, we've been walking around in polos this entire season. I've never seen you wear a bling or nothing." That was just, it felt like a baiting kind of situation for me. But because Yago is who he is, and because people know his weakness in terms of, you know, just that ego, he was able to ignite something that really turned out to be a big mess, you know? And right when your auntie was trying to do something good, I mean, not your auntie, but his auntie was trying to do something good.
Well, I mean, Yago he was really trying to, all he wants to do is just have his aunt acknowledge him, you know, as a man, as a person who can step up to the plate and just acknowledge him for the work, you know. And the whole first season was just him. At least half the first half of the first season was just Yago attempting to do everything he can to be seen by his aunt, and he made legitimate moves. And
He definitely did.
yeah, and still, you know, his aunt would give the opportunity to Miles, and so he was salty about that. You know what I mean?
I think that there's definitely a lot of animosity about that, which is why I really loved that scene when you and Miles were sitting across from one another. And even though Miles wanted something, he was playing to your self-interest to some extent. He definitely made it clear, like, listen, I respect you. You know, I think you're a good businessman, which you are. And I think when, you know, Amar might not realize it, but when you guys were entirely down in the drought and had no money, but known to you, you didn't realize how big of a plan that robbery was going to be, but it ended up being really the lifeline for the entire Amara operation. So I really feel like she should give those opportunities to her. And I think you also bring up a good point. She does look over him to Miles, but now she also does it with Ed to some extent. She's starting to rely on him more and more.
Well, because she's still, you know, more and more. She's just Amara doesn't trust anyone. Things are falling apart around her, and so she is just becoming more and more suspicious. And I mean, she pushed away, you know, her nephew, someone who was just ride or die. You know, like Yago is.
But Yago has done some shady things in the past, though.
Yeah, but like all in her name. Even when even in the first season when he compromised her for a moment, right? Like. Yago's the type of dude that if he's angry, he just acts out of impulse. Yeah. And then afterwards, when he's with it, when he has a moment of silence or he has a moment of stillness, then he realizes, oh, I messed up. I shouldn't have done that. You know, he's always trying to fix up the problems that he creates. He hasn't mastered his emotions yet, which, you know, I think that if he did, you'd see the purity of his loyalty. You know, because that's like Yago at the end of the day, like even now, even after this episode, if his aunt was like, you know what, like let's do this, you know, like I love you, and like he would forget everything. Absolutely. And he would run back, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that's important distinction to make. But he's also like, he's come to a point right now where he doesn't, like, he can't afford not to be seen and acknowledged. Like, he's come to a pivotal point, you know?
And, you know, I love that. We don't see the purity of his loyalty because of his impulse, because of his lack of emotional intelligence in certain aspects of his life. Because I do think that there's sometimes where his haste kind of works in their favor. Maybe not immediately, right? But in the long run, like you're looking at The Admiral's Mistress. That was a movie that was supposed to go straight to Blockbuster.
That's right.
If you guys don't know what that is,
Dying-ass
that's the entire
Blockbuster.
point. You know what I mean? It was supposed to go straight to, not even Netflix. Netflix is too good for that
Nah.
film at this point. Look it up, guys, okay? Blockbuster.
Oh,
But yes,
man,
it was
you just aged yourself just now.
I will gladly do it, okay? I'm a wise old soul. Let's do it. I love that. That's the good old days of, going with your family, picking out a
Right,
movie.
yeah.
But that was where that film was supposed to go. And everybody was okay with it until Yago disrupted the status quo in the long run. So I think that I understand why he needs to be seen. And from the beginning, he needed to be seen, and he always felt like no one respected him. And they didn't even try to pretend to, even sometimes, especially in the beginning. So that's understandable, and I think a lot of men probably get to that point where it's like, okay, I want to be steadfast in who I am, and I need people to look me in the eye, and I want to have something to show, And you see that in the way that he walks into the very important meeting, and he says, I'm the overseer. I'm here because I was told this is Yago Unlimited. What are we doing here? Sits at the head of the table without apologies. He definitely has a second of remorse just out of respect for his aunt, because he knows I don't want to hurt her feelings. But I think he's stepping into a place where he's really ready to show people what he has.
Absolutely. That's a good assessment of good for you.
I love this show. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't a super fan. And I think that this is one of the best, one of the best. I'm sure you probably heard this, but just one of those best kept secrets on TV. I really hope that we can do a great job of getting more people, involved and listening.
I would love that. I mean, I believe in the shows even so much. Like even if separate, even if I wasn't in it, I would watch this show. I think the cast, I think the writers. It's not just Davey, like Davey he outlines the vision. He's also like a writer on the show.
Yeah.
But his team, our team,
Yeah.
the writers are just incredible. They take risks. They know how to listen to the characters and what they need to say.
Yeah.
And so it's nice. It's nice to work with such a creative team like this.
Absolutely. And another thing that I saw in this episode is if you love them, let them go, right? And you see that happening kind of like we just said with Amara and Yago. I think there are people in your life who sometimes you have to kind of do a roundabout, everybody kind of grow in your own pace and then come back together. So that might be going on with them. But another situation of loving and letting go is going on, of course, with Katie and with Miles. But you also see that with Miles and with Lewis. And then you see it again with when we come back into this relationship, this new relationship between our nice Ray Romano's character and Heather. So as they're sitting there at their dinner, at their date, he runs into Ross. And I think at that moment was really scary for him because he knows what Amara is capable of, right? She can come in here and at any point she sees Ricky on a date with Heather. No, it would have been all bad. And then Heather looks nothing like her. It would have just been it would have been a terrible situation. So he quickly gets her out of there. And I thought that showed us a bit of maturity on his part because we're starting to see that he is fed up on a whole other level. You talk about Miles needing this lifeline that is Genie, kind of regurgitating him back into who he is, back into love, back into hope. I think that Heather is going to do the same thing for Rick, and you see that already taking place and kind of manifesting because now that he has met her, he has something to live for or die for. He's even willing to bug Amara's house. He would have never had that amount of courage, in my opinion, to do something like that prior to her walking in.
Well, I think he did that because he felt guilty that someone lost their life because of a choice that he made. But truth be told, as scared as he is of Amara, he loves her.
Yeah, he definitely does.
He loves her, he genuinely loves her, and it's not until this episode where you see that there's a line that was crossed for him, because feeling like you're responsible for someone's death, this is we're at a point where he's really cooperating with it. Like he had some guilt about it before, but now it's like, you know what, this woman needs to be stopped. This woman, it doesn't matter how much I love her, she's now playing with people's lives.
Yeah,
So,
he definitely cares a lot about her, and he's said that multiple times. From even the first time that he captured her, he was like, "What took you so long?" You know what I mean? So there is that relationship there, but just as much as you kind of begin to feel sorry for Rick or just scared for him, I feel a lot of sympathy for Amara, because I just feel like around her a lot of things are trickling down, and she's had pretty much everybody betray her, and she is somebody who is very calm and calculated, and sometimes that can be taken for granted or for weakness. And I know people are afraid of Amar, but because she doesn't speak on every single thing, you might think that it passed her by, but it didn't. So I'm really excited to see her, push back into that.
well, the actress Lydia Porto, right? She speaks about the choice that she made for Amara, which kind of which propelled her into becoming the force that she is, and that choice is, someone told Amara when she was a little girl that she was a queen. Even in the midst of everything that happened with her,
with the goat being sold for,
she was sold for what, 4 goats, and
I think it was 2 even.
Yeah. So she was sold for a few goats, and then was forced into this marriage, and she took business into her own hands. But somebody, like she said, somebody convinced her of that, and so I think she's not gonna let anyone impede on that. And now, on top of that, she doesn't trust anyone. Everyone's betrayed her, like you said. Everyone's betrayed her. Even Yago.
Exactly.
Yago has betrayed her. Even though he tried to clean up his mess because he realized his mistakes, but he compromised that trust. And so there's a lot of guilt and shame being thrown around, and people not knowing how to handle it, and so they project.
Like in real life.
Yeah, in real life.
Like us in real life, like that happens. But I just think a lot of people are in for rude awakenings, and I'm just very much believing in Amara, and I know that when she finds out, I'm terrified to find out who she becomes or the other level that she can go to when she finds out what Rick has done. Yeah. Because something else will be unleashed, and we already see what she's capable of. So I just don't know, like, where does the next level even go?
Without saying anything about
say it.
Without giving away too much. Amara, for me, this season is the most gangster ever. She walks away after this season with that sense, like, you're gonna walk away and be like, damn, you see what kind of survivor she is, what kind of fighter, what kind of resilience that she is. As psychopathic as she can be sometimes, but she's like, you're not gonna kill her, you're not gonna destroy her, you're not gonna, she will fight with every last cell in her body. So.
Yeah. It's that she's definitely very rooted in a lot of moxie, and I very much believe that people are being tested right now to see where they are, and I think that it will come back together. So we're drawing a line in the sand right now. Everybody's kind of doing what's best for them, but we're always best when we stick together. And I think even like we see with this fight between Miles and Lewis, and I think this confrontation between you and your Tia, those are the beginnings. Once you kind of confront the pain, then you can start to heal from it, right? And I think that might be what begins to happen with those relationships. But I think that with the way things ended at the club, I think that Yago's put in a very, very tough spot, because you can even see in his face, and the fact that he wasn't involved in the fight, took a very big step back. Your actions speak louder than your words in every situation.
Well, that also happened in the car, and when they
trying to do the drive-by on
when
the
they did
news
the drive-by,
supplier.
and then he had no idea that Amara was working with this dude. So it's like, Yago just attracts these.
But what is it about him? You see, but we're gonna get into that, because I really want to know what you feel like it is about him that attracts that.
Well, when you act on impulse without consciousness, then you leave yourself open to results that you have no say in. He just acts off an impulse. There's a huge difference between reacting and responding. You know, like reacting is without thought. It's without foresight. You just act and then you think later, you know, versus responding comes from, well, you can be in the same circumstance but make a different choice because you understand the implications of what's happening, you know. And so that's what I think what it is with Yago is he is so filled with emotion. Specifically the things that get triggered in him is like the sense of abandonment and betrayal, you know, from his relationship with his aunt, which I think goes deeper because the story still hasn't yet explored the possibility of like, well, where the hell did Yago come from? Where are his parents? You know, how did Yago get into the hands of Amara? I mean, there was an episode last season when dealing with the character Josias, which is Amara's kind of I don't want to say enemy, but
the one he left to work for, yes.
Yeah.
But they did have some sort of like sexual relationship as well,
And
he and Amara.
yeah, right.
So everything has this complicated undertone beneath it.
Right. So I'm interested in seeing like as far as Yago where if the writers decide to explore what that is, because that'll give the relationship between Yago and Amara a certain kind of context. So
Interesting. I definitely think so. Is he your Tia? Is she?
because he says that you're my Tia by his Tia by marriage.
Yeah.
So what does
that
yeah,
even mean?
right.
You know, so that's definitely something that we have to get into. And there's and I think he's just stuck in the middle. You know, he's very much stuck in the middle. But I think this episode, what I love the most was just how we see everybody falling in love with the movie business, but mostly the premise of it, right? The little kid that everybody has, the dream of it, down to the FBI agents who are here supposed to be, you know, dismantling things, and everybody has fallen in love with this business and found a way to want to get involved in it. But I'm excited about that. We're going to get into our live reading and we'll be right with you into some more. Hi, AfterBuzzers. Our network produces after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows, from dramas, reality TV, sci-fis, and more. There's no network that works harder for television fans like you, but we need your help. We're asking that you subscribe to one or more or all of our YouTube channels. By subscribing, YouTube will suggest tailor-made content just for you. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, do not worry about them. They're optional. So hit that subscribe button right now. Thank you. And check out our YouTube channels as well. For now, thank you for being the best fans ever. Let us know you did and we'll shout you out in the comments. And thank you for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk. All right. So let's get into you. Let's focus on you a little bit more. So I kind of want to start at the beginning. What made you get into acting? What made you decide I want to be an actor?
So it was this girl.
There's always a girl involved. I like that.
There's always this girl. There's this girl who was in this show in New York called Plátanos and Collard Greens. It was like off-Broadway show.
Plantains and collard greens. Okay.
So I really liked her, and I went to the play, and she was great in it, and it was a cool experience. And I liked her enough to come back again and watch the same show. And I went back and I saw the show again, and it was different. It felt different. So I was really intrigued by that. I'm like, and then I was also, I worked in this after school program at the YMCA where I had maybe 10 kids, and I could basically do anything I want with them, whatever activities, or I could teach whatever I want. One of the things I was like, I want to expose them to theater. So I brought them to the show, and Homegirl played a different character, and it was a different experience again. And I was so intrigued by it. I'm like, I want to see what this is. I was like 24 years old at the time. So I looked up graduate programs. And the first one that I found was the Actor Studio Drama School in New York at Pace University.
Yeah.
And so I hit up my brother Javier. I'm like, yo, I got this audition at this graduate program. Will you help me? He's like, of course. and he's also a director. So for 2 weeks, we just practiced my audition and got to play around, and it was the first time I've ever acted in anything. And I went up at the drama school audition. I did my thing, and he was my partner, and I got accepted.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and then he got accepted. He didn't even apply, and he got accepted into the program as a director. So it was just an amazing experience at that program.
Wow, that's wonderful. And I just love to hear actors who are so dedicated, because everybody has a different story and a different path, but you're so dedicated to your craft. You have a master's in fine arts. So that speaks to, you know, how serious you take this. So I'm very excited that that they accepted you and you were able to have this moment. But side note, this young lady really, she owes you a little bit of commission because you brought so many people to the show, right? You're bringing your kids, your after school kids to the show as well.
Which wait.
The young lady who kind of got you into all of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we never ended up really hooking up.
You know, but she was just there to point you in the exactly. She was just there to point you in the direction to your purpose.
Yeah.
So on this journey of becoming a professional actor, has there been any moments where you almost gave up but clearly didn't?
Yes.
Oh.
That was a very specific moment. You know, because when I moved from New York to LA, I was like just hardcore. Like I knew what I came here to do, and I came here in 2011, and then I just, you know, I was grinding. I was always working in the restaurant business. You know, I ended up working part-time as a teacher at the Lee Strasberg Institute. I was teaching spoken word and acting technique, and then I was hustling on the side. You know what I'm saying? Like, and still wasn't making enough money. But eventually, I remember one time, it was like, was it like October? No. I think it was like in September. September of 2016, where I just came home. My brother Javier was there, and he was in the living room, and I was working at Cheesecake. And I came in and I was just like, I can't do this. Like it was an emotional thing to, you know, the thing about working an automated job, right? Like working something like in the service industry is once you get good at the role that you play, there's nothing else to do. So after a while, you just, you know, my mind just shut off. So I was like on autopilot at work, and that's
dangerous.
Especially like I hold my passion and my soul and my spirit very dear to me. So to compromise that at that time was difficult. And so I remember having that. I told like Javier, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I remember that. And then the next day, that's when I got the audition for Get Shorty.
And you know, and that's the interesting thing is like right when your Genie, well, Javier has been there all along, but there's definitely that moment where it just kind of wakes you up and just reminds you of what it is that you're meant to be, and then you trust that synchronicity, right? Right when you were about to give up, your blessing was on the other side of that. So everybody has a different process of coming in. I know Lydia Porter was like discovered on the street. So how was that audition process for you in terms of getting on to Get Shorty?
So. I got the audition, and my manager says, I got you this great audition, and you can actually book this. And she had never said that before, because usually the auditions that I go on, I mean, not that I couldn't be right for the role, but I always felt like when I showed up, like everybody else looked more right for the role than me. And you know, that happened a lot. And then I would also be told, well, that doesn't matter. Just let the casting director see you. And I don't want to go into an audition thinking like, oh, okay, at least the casting director will see me, even though I might not be the best person for the role. Like after a while of being told no and no and no all over again, you just like, yeah. So since she told me that I could actually book this, so I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to audition for this, then I have to do this in a way that I've never done before. Because if I keep doing the same thing, I'm going to get the same results, right? So I went to 3 people that I really, really trusted their work. And I got 3 totally different takes on the character and the story and the actual audition piece. And so it was awesome. I got to go in. I not just like choosing what costume that Yago would wear, but I did some of my technique that I used for the audition to prepare for was something called animal work. Animal work is basically the study. You know, if I look at a character, I'm like, yo, what animal do they remind me of? I look at their stature, look at the way they move, the way that I envision, or the way it comes to me, and so the animal that I chose for Yago was a spotted hyena. In that world, so and that animal, it's a matriarchal structure. So even the lowest ranking male, the lowest ranking female, has higher status than the highest ranking male, right? And they can be quite vicious. And I thought it was perfect because Yago is like the highest ranking male as far as he's concerned whenever a man is around, but you know, though, especially someone like his aunt, right?
Oh,
it's like cowers in front of her no matter how much he's standing up to her,
because he has to consistently live in the shadow the way the hyenas have to live in the shadows of the females.
And I just think that Yago I think that Yago in general around females probably diminishes himself, you know, so especially around someone like his aunt.
Yeah, you even see the way he interacted when he first wanted to get the club at the beginning, you know, and how he interacted with those girls. So that makes sense. But I also feel like with a character like Yago, and even with a job like being an actor, there's definitely your least favorite parts and your favorite parts, right? We touched on some of the things that you dislike about the character in terms of his inability to think things through or just pause and take a second to think things through. What are some things that you may love about Yago or you may relate to about the character?
Well, Yago is deeply insecure. And I have my own insecurities that I hold to my chest, you know. And whenever they get triggered, I go inward versus Yago goes outward. So he takes those insecurities, and that's a place where I relate to. Is like I can actually use my insecurities as a source of creativity. I know with Yago, he can't deal with being with his insecurity. So if someone triggers that in him, he strikes or he makes it about them or that situation. Versus me, like I feel, you know, I have a lot more consciousness than Yago does. So I you know, but I struggle sometimes because I go inward. I attack myself, or I make myself feel guilty or shameful about certain choices or decisions I make, even the way that I look at things sometimes. So I feel like Yago gives me an opportunity to deal with those parts of me in a different way so that I can have a little more peace. It's funny. As violent as Yago is, I find peace within myself by playing characters like that give me that opportunity to use any insecurity that I may have in a creative way.
Absolutely, because you go through those processes to be able to translate it in such a way that people can connect, right? Because you hear a lot of no's, but there's all for a reason. Because even going into having you play a role like this, it connects so much because we feel it, because you embody that role and you embody that character and bring it to life. But I feel like at the same way that Yago goes outward, he can probably take a second. And I hope that as we explore his character a little more and he has time to grow up and heal from a lot of the things that he might not be dealing with, then he can take a second to be able to do more of the things that you do in real life, right? Where it's like, I'm not going to project my pain onto everybody else because I've taken the time to be able to recognize that this is me doing it. I feel like he doesn't even recognize that he is doing it yet.
I feel like he's starting to, even if it's on an unconscious level, you know, like, you know, it cost him his relationship with the one person that he loves the most. And so, you know, he got pushed away from her and he gets further and further away from her. So I feel like this, I mean, you'll see as the episodes unfold, but he said the reality starts to hit of the implications of his impulsive actions. So
what has been the most difficult scene for you playing this role?
Probably the breakup scene with Amara, with Lydia. Yeah, when I go to the hotel. And
That was really sad. When she said everything you touch turns to shit. That was like a really sad moment for me and for you and for Yago, because it was just like, that was really heartbreaking, you know. And I felt sad for her, because I also feel like when you're on the other side of maybe somebody who messes up a little more, annoys you more than you should, you're trying to hold it back, right? She's consistently trying to hold it back, where everybody around her is like, Yago is not up to par. And she's been trying to protect him for so long, and then she exploded because he ruined her idea of being a queen. He ruined her movie premiere. So it was like,
yeah, I mean, I think the movie premiere was just the culmination, like the final straw.
True.
You know, I think she's been fed up with him for a while. It just hit a point where it's just like, I can't do anything
I can't even
as
deal
long
with
as
this.
you're around.
Yeah.
If you're around, I can't flourish. I
Yeah.
can't be seen. So,
That makes a lot of sense. But you've done a lot of different things. We talk about how you've done theater, and you've done films, and you've done TV. Do you prepare for them differently, or is there any of the three that you like more or enjoy more?
I mean, I've had there's certain high points that I remember when I was doing off Broadway on my third year of grad school. I did this play called Extremities, and it's about it's about this guy who is stalking this woman. He basically tried to say hi to her, and he on the street, and she ignored him, and so he like stalked her. And the play starts with him, where her in her own house, and he just walks in like looking for somebody else. And so it's like, maybe it looks like a little bit confusing, and then what ends up happening is you find out real quick that he's there to rape her.
Oh, wow.
And so the first half of the play is like, him about to rape her, and then there's a small window of opportunity, and she sees it and she takes it, and the rest of the play she's torturing him in the fireplace. And so, and her roommates come home, and then I make them think that she was the one that went crazy, and so it becomes this really fascinating back and forth. And for me, that was the first time that I realized I love giving villains a soul, because it makes people, if you feel a villain, then you have to deal with the fact that there's a part of them that you see in him and you. That's the only way. And so I would play this human being, and doesn't mean that I condone any of what his actions, but it's like a character study, like what makes people go to that point, to that extreme.
You were able to humanize him.
And that's I take pride in being able to do that. That's what I attempt to do.
Yeah.
I don't always get it right, but I have a pretty good record. Like I do my best in really trying to get to the core wound of every character.
I think you do a great job of doing that, even very much so on Get Shorty, because at the same time that as a fan watching, I can get annoyed with Yago, but it's still this love affair where it's like, we can be upset with Yago, but no one else can hurt him. No one else can do anything to him. There's a sense of kinship there that everybody kind of grows. And I think that you do a great job of projecting the fact that he is in a space where he's in a cocoon and he's still transitioning. He's still becoming the man that he's going to be, or not. So we're still in that space where we're allowing him to unfold in front of our eyes. So I think you do a good job of relaying that, so people don't just take whatever they see and kind of run with it. There's a love affair that we become as fans with the characters, especially Yago.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So, but you guys are a stellar cast. Is there a character that you or a cast member that you spend more time with, or spend most time with?
I mean, I spent some time with Lydia and Isaac, who play Amara and Ed.
And Ed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we lead pretty busy lives, so it's nice to try to catch them on the other side. But sometimes I just try to connect with not just the cast, but the producer, the director. We try to keep it this fluid relationship. Where we try to connect as much as we can, even though it's quite busy for all of us. But
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But, just bringing things back to how busy things are, and even here in the United States and everything that's going on, you're Puerto Rican and Cuban, and there's a lot going on in terms of Hurricane Maria. And how do you feel about the fact that, even now, a lot of people aren't truly coming to terms with the real death toll that was Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico?
well,
Or what are you doing to kind of be involved or trying to get things done in that aspect?
I think it's important to see that, the president that we have in office right now, his inability to be able to acknowledge like factual information on what's happened in the island says something, and then to have quite a few people in this country so blindly give themselves to like believing everything that comes out of his mouth. I mean, I got family and I got friends who've actually voted for this dude, and it's troubling sometimes, to deal with a quote unquote leader of a whole country and then just deny what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And that community are like
Yeah.
that's just one aspect, that's just one group, one community that he's denied,
Absolutely.
And so
That's understandable, and I think that it's really great to see what you're doing. I mean, whether consciously or unconsciously, just being on a show like this, representation matters, and you're definitely doing a lot to just being who you are and showing people that, listen, there's a lot of fight to get here, but you can definitely do it and you can definitely make it. And I think that when there's an independent study done and there are facts coming out and people are still ignoring it, it's definitely troublesome for all of us, But what's next for you? I mean, you've lived on the East Coast, you've lived on the West Coast, and moving forward, what's next for you and what keeps you going?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few things cooking right now. I'm shooting a short that my lady and I are gonna shoot the first week of October.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's a good script and it's a great team. It's a great team that we're working with. So there's also a feature that me and my brother Javier and my boy Matt have been developing for the last 6 years, and we've developed some good interest in that film, and it's a military drama.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're excited. We're excited.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. I feel like because, there's nothing like a brooding military man, because there's a lot of memories and a lot of pain trapped in their minds, right? In terms of just trying to mirror the back and forth. But I can only speculate. I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, most of the people, at least the community that we're, that the story is deriving its energy from it's from a community where it's hood as hell anyway.
Yeah.
They try, you get away from the street, you get away from one circumstance and you get into another one, and you know what I mean? So it's interesting to see that dynamic. Like, it's not about demonizing the military. It's about showing the implications of what happens.
It's very real. I mean, it's definitely very real. And I love the fact that you're doing it with your wife, because you guys are both people who do a lot of different things, right? You wear a lot of different hats. And I think it speaks to a man's strength when he can do a lot of the same things that, his partner does, but isn't threatened by it. Or if anything, you guys kind of come together to make things better.
Yeah, the feature I'm not doing with my wife, but the short I'm doing.
I'm saying the short, and then you also have the feature with Javier and a few of you.
Right. No,
Javier's been there since the beginning. Since the original audition. It's great to have friends like that, right? Who have been with you, shooting in the gym, so to speak.
Hell yeah.
So that's wonderful.
I've been blessed. I have some good people in my life who allow me to be as creative as I can be. So
is that what keeps you grounded?
Oh yeah, like my work saved my life. Like, I know some people do it for whatever, I don't know. People do it for all different kinds of reasons, but I do my work because I need to do my work, because my work gives me an opportunity to create peace in my own life. So, yeah. Well,
I'm really excited to see how your career continues to grow, because I know it's going to be very, very, very bright.
Cool.
We're very excited about that. So we're going to transition into our special segment slightly and go into some news and gossip slightly before we go into ours. You know, because you feel every time, you know, this show makes me want to like get involved, you know, like pop my collar, do something dramatic. All right, AfterBuzzers, you know that we talk to you about special American gangsters, and today we'll be talking about Alberto Martinez, a former Puerto Rican American gangster. You know, he started at the lovely young age of 13 years old in East Harlem. He later grew his enterprise to Washington, D.C., but in 1991, he was arrested for 14 counts of murder, in addition to a lot of drug charges. He ended up becoming an FBI informant. Sounds familiar? He ended up being an FBI informant because he was facing life in prison. Yeah, exactly. He was facing life in prison, so he was definitely, or death, actually. So he ended up turning on his two best friends, and the life of his exploits ended up turning into the film, the 2002 film Paid in Full. Have you heard of it?
Well, yeah, I watched Paid in Full. I didn't know that was
exactly
about his
it's
life.
About, yeah, and he actually was released from prison in 2015, and he's actually living in witness protection as we speak right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's so interesting that people can come out, have this really fast life, and then, you know, and it all ends from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, he made certain choices.
He did.
You know,
He
what I mean?
did.
It's funny is like Get Shorty kind of is kind of mirrors that kind of environment.
Yeah,
So.
you definitely have that. You have things like that going on. Let's get into some news and gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
All right, so we had some things going on, and we're just going to go right into the second one about Ray Romano. And we saw an interview that Chris O'Dowd was doing, and he had a bit of a Ray Romano accent. So after I show you this, you have to give me any accents of your cast members that you might have.
Oh man, I'm terrible at this stuff.
No, go ahead and roll the clip. It's so funny. Oh, and the thing about it that's so wonderful about Ray is that even in this episode, his son was in it, Matt Romano. And if you guys remember last episode, we talked about Ray going on Kimmel and bringing his son out and embarrassing him. And on this episode of Get Shorty, episode 7, we see Matt Romano playing Heather's new replacement. I just love that. I love the fact that you see father and son, you know, having that.
Well, I mean, Ray is a family man to the core, you know. So
He
it's
is.
like I'm not surprised to see that. Even though I missed the memo that he was in the episode.
I literally was like, wait, is that Matt? Okay, let's go ahead and play the clip.
You have, I know a lot of people do, you have a Ray Romano impression?
I know, kinda. It's really just vowel sounds.
Okay, they literally sounded like him. Okay, you have to give me yours. Come
Kind of like,
on. Give us your best Ricky.
My best
Your best
Ricky?
Ricky is different from your best Ray. I said Ricky so it's easier, you know, because he's not alive. Then you don't have to get.
I wouldn't even know how to start.
Okay, let's just go straight to Ray. Go ahead.
Ray, I don't know. I'm so terrible at this
Oh,
stuff.
it's okay. We'll put you on the
Yeah,
spot.
we'll
bring it back to you at the
Okay,
end when we
maybe we'll
sign
bring it
off.
back,
We'll give
yeah.
it back to you at the end. Okay, well, let's go ahead and roll into some predictions. But definitely, we could definitely just go ahead and chill with that. But I know that you guys do a lot of fun things on set, you know, and I just love the cast. You guys seem to have a real
yeah.
family going on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely. When I first met Lydia, I was like, literally the first time I met her, I was like, "Hey, Tia," you know. And from the beginning, like I didn't have to. I knew that I didn't have to work hard to actually have a relationship with
Yeah.
my fellow actors.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
nice, you know.
And that connection, it definitely translates off stage as well. So getting into some predictions, honestly, for me, I definitely think Amara found Heather. Ross told her he has a big mouth. He came back. I can't believe they had the audacity to have one more kiss. You should have ran out of there the second he told you to leave, you know. But I think that, you know, Amara has Heather, and even the way she was interacting with Rick got me a little suspicious, asking, you know, are you happy? So that would be my prediction for the next episode, and we'll see what's going on with that. And I feel like Genie's husband is gonna show up somewhere because there's gonna be trouble in paradise. What do you can't give us predictions for the episode, but give us a little bit of predictions, or more so where you would like to see your character go next season.
Yeah. I mean, I just personally, I would like to know what's gonna what the history is between Amara and Yago. Just what the writers would have in store to be able to break that down, and what happens, if I'm not sure Yago knows. So I would love to find out how he finds out, and then what he does about it with that information.
The thing about Yago that I love is that there's so much more to come. And I think we haven't seen him in any... He had that like quick girlfriend who used to do things for him, like in season 1, like she used to get things done. Where did she disappear to? But we'll come back to that. But I'm really hoping that we see a little bit of a love interest going on with Yago, because sometimes I think when you get into relationships, all it does is really pull the blanket back, right, as to who you are or how much work you've done in your singleness. And I think that if he steps into a relationship, then a lot of those issues that he might not know he has will be confronted by the kinds of issues he will have in that relationship. And maybe he will now have to, kind of unpack a lot of the things that he's never been curious enough to do. But now that he likes somebody, I don't know. I'm thinking that might be a reason. Good work.
I mean, yeah, relationships usually tell you who you are and who you're not. So it'd be interesting to see what that, if they choose to go in that direction. Again, working on the spider hyena animal and learning that structure and understanding that women in general, Yago gives his power to. So it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, because he gives
that
his
would
power
be so good. Okay, writers, if you're watching, please give him a girlfriend. We want to see some drama on that end. That's definitely going to be a lot of fire. But we're so thankful that you came. It was such a blessing having you on this episode. Go ahead and tell the people where they can find you and how they can follow a lot of the projects that you have coming on, from the short play and more.
Gotcha. So Get Shorty you can find on the Epix Network at 9 p.m. on Sundays. You can buy the first season on Amazon. What else? My Instagram is right.
We want your Instagram, your Twitter, but we'll have it all down there for them.
Yeah.
We'll definitely tell them where to reach. We're so great to have you.
No doubt.
And I'm Thelma Mbaezue-Daniel. You can catch me at Thelma on Instagram. And next week we'll be sure to be here. And thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye. Oh, you have
From
to give...
executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.